Congressman August Pfluger was in town the other day for a news conference. This is a big news story, Congressman. Thanks for doing what you're doing. But as you succinctly put it, in brevity is the soul of wit, if it's produced here, it should stay here. Tell us about this.
Well, good morning. You're absolutely right. What's produced in Midland should stay in Midland. What we're referring to are the mineral rights underneath the Midland Air Park, which by statute since 2012, an Obama-era law that was jammed into a big, massive bill, gave the FAA the right to those minerals. And, they basically go through this very complex structure of what you have to do to get the mineral rights, and it involves, if you want access to those, giving up the help that the FAA provides, which obviously is a non-starter because of safety and other issues that we know. So the mayor, Lori Blanc, has been working on this for several years, and I applaud her efforts. And we have jumped in with good conversations with the Department of Transportation, with the FAA, to right the ship. And there are several avenues that we're trying to take here, but let's just keep it simple. What belongs, what's produced in Midland belongs in Midland. We're fighting to make sure that those minerals go to the city. We're talking about potentially hundreds of millions of dollars of oil and gas revenues and royalties that would benefit the city. So, it's just one of those odd things that we believe we can't prove why that legislation was jammed in there, but it probably was a targeted response to a conservative city that had, a resource-rich environment there that they thought, well, we'll put this into the federal coffers. And Texas state law is pretty clear that if you own the minerals, you get to keep the royalties there. And that's exactly the case. We have done the research, and the city of Midland owns those minerals below the surface of Midland Air Park.
And then Obama comes in and takes it away. That's that typical, I guess, like you say, punishing us probably because of our conservatism. Let me ask you this. What needs to be done at the federal level for you guys there to get this changed?
Well, first and foremost, we're working with the Trump administration. They've been very helpful in trying to find solutions and find a pathway to keep those revenues here in the city of Midland. So that's the first step. The other option is a statutory change of the law, and obviously we will pursue that if needed. So there's a couple of options. We're trying to take the quickest and most expedient one. And that's why we're working with Mr. Duffy, Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, and his team at the FAA and the Trump administration. But you can imagine, trying to work with Joe Biden or his team would have been extremely difficult, and where that probably would have gone. So this is something that we feel encouraged about. We're going to keep fighting about, and the press conference was basically to set the marker out there that we intend to get these revenues back to the rightful owner, and that is the city of Midland.
And I would say, Congressman, thanks for your efforts here to serve us. We appreciate that a whole lot. There's also some news that this could be a big story, too. The Prime Minister of Canada was then talking to Donald Trump, but the Keystone Pipeline just might reopen. Do you have any information on that?
Well, nothing more than what I think we've seen just in the media reporting. But again, it kind of goes back to this administration wants to build things. They want to see projects completed. They don't want the government to stand in the way. They want to come together in these public-private partnerships. What a contrast and a stark difference between the last administration that tried to hold everything up. So we're obviously watching that very closely. And Craig, thanks for bringing that pipeline up, because I've worked very hard over the last 5 years and made a pledge to the Permian Basin to be the representative for energy, to make sure that American energy dominance, which we know the heart and soul of that is Midland and Odessa, Texas, the Permian Basin. We've got to get to a point where permitting reform, which means that you can build things and have approvals from the government, not in 7 to 9 years, but in one year, and you can start building in the second year, and you don't have to fight constant litigation. So the Keystone Pipeline represents the ultimate tragedy in that effort, where you had something that was approved, then Joe Biden takes it away and basically expropriates that project from a private company. we've been fighting very hard to make sure that what we produce and how we innovate and the projects that we know will give us affordable, reliable energy can still be there.
Congressman August Pfluger on KWEL 1070 and FM 107.1, 741 right now. Today it'll be 86. It's a nice day, 68 degrees. You pointed out yesterday or the day before at the press conference, Congressman, and this is really, really basic, but the Democrats, we'll talk about the shutdown here, but the government being shut down. Democrats are voting against what they were totally in favor of just a few years back.
Well, that's exactly right. The irony of this, and you're seeing two different worldviews clash with each other. One is hypocrisy. That's the Democrats. This budget was signed by Joe Biden. This budget was passed last year. Democrats voted to move this forward. And the irony is that now they're suddenly against it. And the reason they're against it is because they hate Donald Trump and they don't want him to continue on with his agenda. So this is the best way that they can stop that progress. So the shoe has been on the other foot. I served when Biden was president and Pelosi was speaker, and we had to make adult decisions. And we didn't like their spending levels, and we didn't like anything that they were doing. But we got to a point where we didn't hurt military families. In just a couple of short days, Wednesday the 15th, our troops are not going to get paid. We have done our job. We have voted to pay our troops. We did that 3 weeks ago today when the House passed, and it was all House Republicans. Only one Democrat decided to join. But House Republicans passed a funding mechanism, which Joe Biden signed into law to keep the government open. And obviously, we know the rest of the story, that Chuck Schumer seven times, Senate Democrats have rejected to pay our troops. It's a tragedy. It really is political theater. And you know what? I feel sorry for our country to have to go through this political divisiveness without true adults in the room to make good decisions for the rest of our country.
Congressman, do you agree? A lot of analysts will tell us that the esteemed Senator Schumer is scared to death of AOC, of being maybe primaried, and that's why he's kind of acquiescing into that radical. Not that he's not radical, but that's why he's giving in. Would you agree?
I totally agree. I think all politics are local, and he is scared to death that he's going to lose his Senate seat to the radical AOC, who has driven the Democrat Party into the ground. That they have been in a tailslide for years, and it is finally in full meltdown mode. And this is what's driving his whole behavior. Is he has to be seen as the fighter against Donald Trump, for these radicals. And the American public is tired of that. They don't want that anymore. But that's what's driving his behavior.
16 away from the hour today. It'll be 86 degrees, 68 right now. Oil down a little bit. We're at $60.72 right now. The government shutdown. Democrats want a permanent extension of the Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. What boil down? What's all that mean?
Well, when Joe Biden took office, as COVID was going on, they came up with this idea to help in an emergency status the most vulnerable, and so they gave these ACA premium tax credits and tax benefits and help to those that were paying outrageous prices. So, in a nutshell, there's no cap on how much you make in order to claim these, and so it's not just those that are the most vulnerable in our society. It actually goes all the way up, to those that make the most, and those are due to expire on December 31st. And so what Democrats are doing is they're tying the government funding, which expired on the 30th of September. 13 days ago, they are tying the funding of the government to the expiration, the upcoming but not yet expiration of these premium tax credits, which are not related to each other. So they're basically seeing the sunset. These were put in place in an emergency status, and they cost our country $300 billion. And they're seeing the sunset of those tax credits as an opportunity to leverage Republicans. And Republicans are saying, stop. we'll have it. We'll have that discussion. We'll have that negotiation. We will get into the room with you, and we'll talk about that. But you can't do that until you pass go, and passing go means fund the government, be an adult, and come to the table as an adult member of Congress, and they just refuse to do that.
Do you see, Congressman, an end to this shutdown coming fairly soon?
Well, we've been told that there is a anarchist type. They refer to these as the No Kings, but we refer to them as the Antifa Anarchy parade that's going to be happening in Washington, D.C. on the 19th of October. And we've been told that Chuck Schumer is going to be the headliner there to demonstrate his level of fight and the unpatriotic things that he has said and done. So that seems to be what he's shooting for. Again, you couldn't put a bigger bow on the political theater that he has performed by going to that type of parade. You wouldn't catch anybody from West Texas there, I can promise you.
Antifa's having a parade, and the esteemed Chuck Schumer is going to be there.
This is the formerly known as No Kings parade, where you have all these groups that are going to coalesce around D.C. and celebrate their fight against ICE and celebrate their fight against Trump and celebrate all these unpatriotic things. And we've been told that Chuck Schumer is eyeing that. So your guess is as good as mine. I mean, we did our job. The Senate has now rejected funding for the military 7 times, and they're really they really just look petty and childish with no real objective here.
You talked about Congressman. You talked about West Texans. We would not attend an event like that, of course. But I think there's a lot of people like West Texans that are fired up about what's going on in our country. Charlie Kirk may be in the revival. I hope that doesn't go away. But I think the average American is really on board. And, like Merle Haggard, you're walking on the fighting side of me. You can feel that this is happening, I think.
You really can. And we are fired up because, just look at the difference between what Democrats are doing, obstructing the American public, obstructing prosperity and security. And then Donald Trump is out there negotiating a massive and historic peace deal between Gaza and Israel. Nobody else could do that. Nobody else could bring nations from around the world together like him. And people are fired up because they see that stark contrast between the two parties, where one just wants to obstruct and be petty, and the other one, we've passed massive legislation that helps every single American, that strengthens our border. I mean, Donald Trump shut down the border. It took one day, and he shut it down. And there's more to do, by the way. There's a lot more to do, and we're getting our country back on track. And people are mad about it because they're just tired of the talk. And for the first time in history, you have a president who campaigned on a number of points, and he's doing every single one of them. He has committed to do every single thing he said.
And, of course, he did not win the Nobel Peace Prize, and big surprise there, too. Congressman, you've been conducting a lot of town halls in the district. It's a big district. That's got to be pretty time-consuming to do. But in watching you handle these things very well, and you answer questions and everything. But you've been around the district and lots of town halls all around. What's the main issue? The big questions?
Well, exactly what you're talking about, and you're right. This week I've been, in all over the district, from east to west, Junction to Midland, everywhere in between, talking to farmers and ranchers and oil and gas producers and businesses and just people. They just want to know when are we going to actually have a country that can unite, which is something obviously I've been leading on and will continue to do that. Every piece of legislation I've passed is bipartisan, and my constituents want to know, when is this country going to get back on track? It's basically every question you've asked me this morning is what they're asking in these town halls. But the reason I do these, and the reason that we go, into communities, is because I want to know what people are thinking and what they're concerned about, what they're feeling. And it helps me when I go to D.C. and get into a hearing or a legislative drafting session to harness that passion and push forward. And we've gotten a lot of things passed because of that. And we're starting to go into businesses. If you have a big business with 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 people, then, that's a great opportunity for me to sit down with a specific industry. And we do that quite often as well.
All right. And you're still pretty happy with what's going on in the military and Pete Hegseth. There's been a lot of talk about that. I think most of the people love what Hegseth is doing and Donald Trump doing. Of course, he's the leader, and the military is in better shape now than it has been in a long time.
You're right. He's made some personnel changes. He's gotten to a point where I think most of the generals, he had that big commander's call, for lack of a better term, in Quantico, Virginia, where you had 700 or 800 generals and admirals from all over the world that came and convened, and he told them to get ready, to get out there and command and be fit and work on lethality and have the resources and take some risk to get the force ready. So I am very happy. And I was talking to a former a retired four-star general yesterday, who said that the previous administration really struggled to find good leaders. They really struggled to promote the best generals and the best admirals, and I think we all knew that. And this is coming from a guy who's nonpartisan. He doesn't dip into politics at all, but he acknowledged just how dangerous it was to not have the right people promoted. We all knew that, and we saw that. And Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump they've taken great and extreme measures to get the right people in those jobs, because we can't mess around with national security. So I am very happy with it.
We get calls and some comments once in a while still, and they would like to know when the Epstein files may be released. Is there anything about that that you can comment on?
We want them to be released. We've pushed for that for a long time. I mean, think about Joe Biden, and he had 4 years to release them. Why didn't his Department of Justice release them? So I know that they're taking, with extreme caution, they're making sure that nobody that is innocent, that might be, have their name in there, because that would be a life-changing event. If you were innocent and you didn't have anything, you're just attached to it. So we do want to see those, and I've pushed for that before. But due process is very important, and there's a lot of conspiracies out there that the left will say, well, Donald Trump, this, that, no, they're actually doing what the left-wing DOJ did not do, which is adhere to due process. So, but we do want to see what's in those, and I am very hopeful that Pam Bondi will release them soon.
And with that, we got to run. Congressman Colonel August Pfluger, thank you for your service in the military and Congress. Thank you much.
Craig, thank you. God bless this great area that I get to represent. Keep the faith, keep the hope. I will continue to work for you. Our offices are open. We are there delivering services, and if you need anything, we have an office in Midland and Odessa. Please call us. We can help with federal agencies, and just know that we're fighting every day to get this country back on track. God bless.